So A1 Pits Pit 3, if you've been here before, you know what it's all about. If you've not been here before, it's about 12 acres in size, it's rectangular in shape, and it can be quite weedy in places, especially in the edge. I would say the approximate depth between 14 and 17 foot over most of it, so it is quite a deep lake, and it can be quite deep in the margins. The fish like it out in the middle, but they also love the weed, and certainly during the daytime they'll get in the margins. If you've seen any of my earlier videos, you'll know that I've caught fish out of this lake on maggots in the margins. I'm not on maggots today, although I do have them, but I'm finding fishing with boilies, pellets and maize, I'm doing probably just as well, and I'm avoiding those perch that I've had trouble with in previous weeks. Fishing from 3 banks, I'm on the railway bank, I'm right in the middle. There's 2 or 3 swims to my left and to my right. The corner swims can be really good at times, but at the minute they're rather weedy. There's 2 split banks. You can fish the split between 2 and 3, that's lake 2 and 3. You can also fish the split between 3 and 4. You can't fish the A1 bank. Now maybe lads might be stalking fish earlier on in the year, but there's no pegs on that bank, certainly not permanent ones, and you can't bivvy up, so it's fishing from 3 sides of the lake. Well, what about that for a bit of early morning excitement? I stood next to the rods. I've actually got the alarms at the rod end on silent. I've just got the receiver box in the bivvy, so when I'm actually down there I can't really hear much. Stood there watching the water, looking for signs of showing fish. I just noticed out the corner of my eye the rod tip bouncing. Look round, bobbins tight up against the rod, and as you saw, a cup of tea went on the floor, and I thought I had a fish on. Well, I thought I had a carp on. I definitely had a fish on. I did think it was coming in a little bit easier. When I was watching the water, I saw a couple of fish show, which I thought at the time were tench. I obviously know now they were more than likely bream. One thing I do know is I must be fishing in a clear spot, or I must have my presentation right, so although it was only a bream this time, you can only take the positives. I've got the rod straight back out. I've got another cup of tea on. Let's hope we've got enough time to get a bite. Still looking good out there. It's overcast, it's bright. Perfect conditions for carp. Let's hope one comes along. Right, so we're mid-morning, Saturday morning. And unfortunately we still not had any action, just that earlier bream. What I've got is a lot of close-in weed. I can't really find any clear spots, so I've got like a castable weed rake, and I've just got it clipped up. Probably 2 or 3 rod lengths out, and I've just been dropping that down and gradually clearing a little hole in the weed. I'd like to put a couple of rods close in, just for the daytime. I've topped up this swim that's about 55 yards out. Put about another 5 or 6 bombs on it this morning. I've not seen any fish showing over it yet. I mean, conditions are ideal at the moment. It's overcast, windy. It's just started drizzling with rain. You'd have thought perfect for a bite. But there isn't actually anything showing at all. I've had a couple of lads come past me this morning and they've said that the lake is fishing really hard. They haven't spoke to anybody yet this morning that's caught anything. So I guess it's a case of just persevering, trying out different things and hoping at some point that the fish switch on. Right, that should do it. I've now got a nice little hole in the weed. I've still got weed all the way around, but I've just disturbed that bottom and cleared a nice little spot. Should be able to present a bait, maybe on a helicopter rig. Put a bit of bait over the top and try and fish a nice bright yellow bait over that. See if we can get anything on it. Okay, so now I've raked out the spot. Just going to put a couple of spoms over it. Just get a bit of bait down there. Something to attract the fish, or just stop the fish in the tracks as they go over the top of it, hopefully. Right, that'll do. Let's get a rig over it and see what happens. Well guys, nothing to report on the fish front. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the Saturday. It's absolutely hammering it down with rain. The rain that was predicted for between 12 and 2 o'clock has turned up. Hopefully it'll liven the fish up a little bit. Just give me a chance to show you what I've been spomming out. I've got a mixture of pellets and 12mm boilies. I'm using the mainline response pellets, the Essential Cell. And I've got some 12mm boilies from Trent Baits. I've also got a bit of flecker colour in there. Because I'm using yellow hook baits, I just want that little bit of yellow. This one was on that spot, 3 rod lengths out to the left towards that weed bed. Just a couple of spoms over the top. And that yellow dumbbell pop-up on the Ronnie rig that I showed you earlier. We'll get this one back and see if we can turn one fish into several. I don't know if you can actually make that out or even hear me over the noise of the rain, but the water's absolutely pouring through the back of the bivvy at the minute. I've literally got a river running from front to back and out the front and down the bank. It rained just before I had that last fish, and as I ran out I started to slide just past the mud patch that you can see there. And anybody watching would have found it quite funny because I slid on my arse all the way down the bank past the rods. And by the time I got back to the rod that I'd got the bite on, it was actually leaving the rod rest because it was locked up solid. I just caught it mid-air. Okay, so while I'm under the brolly sheltering from the rain, just after catching that medium-sized common carp, I just run through the rig that we caught it on. You can see there I've got a dumbbell pop-up. It's attached to a size 4 X hook, wide gape. That's on a stiff link, fished Ronnie style, so it's literally just sat on the bottom like that. That's sliding up and down. One of the Nashi Cam Fusion leaders. I found these to be really good in weed. The fish don't seem to mind the fact that they're a little bit thicker because they're like a translucent khaki type material. and I've fished them on other lakes before, and I've done really well on them with other leaders I've struggled with. Just noticed there I've got a bead set about a foot up from the lead, and that's actually got no trace bead on it, so that will actually pop up if I lose a fish and snap off. They can get rid of the leader. Because I'm fishing helicopter style, I've got one of the quarter heli safes on the end of there just to dump the lead. That's exactly what happened on the take. The lead got dumped, so the fish came to the top. It didn't present any problems with weed whatsoever. As you can probably hear, it's absolutely hammering it down with rain, and it has been for probably an hour now. Just going to wait till it stops, and then we'll get it back out and see if we can get another one a bit bigger. Every few hours during the day I've been topping the spot up, just 3 or 4 spons, just to keep bait falling through the swim. I can only presume the pellet I put out last night has probably gone mushy by now. It would break down quite easily with a fish feeding over the top of it. It's just about keeping the swim topped up. On a little and often basis. A bit like match fishing, really. The only difference is if I was match fishing, I'd expect to be catching more than I am. But that's carp fishing for you. When you're staying static, you've got to do what you can to try and get the fish to come to you. Hopefully by baiting little and often I can make them do that. Okay guys, it's Saturday night, I'm just about to cast out for the night session. Just show you what I'm putting out there. I've had a couple of little changes today. One of the rigs that's going to go out is what they call a German rig. It's basically a stiff boom, very similar to a Ronnie, but there's a bit less movement. It just spins, it doesn't rotate as well. You can see on there I've got a chopped down yellow dumbbell, and basically that's just going to sit on the bottom like a wafter. The hook itself will be laid on the bottom and the bait will just be sitting above it. Still on that same boom section, just so it goes away from the lead, and that's running on a helicopter setup with the heli safe. The only difference on the other 2 rods is they're going to be full choddies. Same again, stiff section, a full choddy hook set up there, and a full yellow dumbbell pop up, and obviously you all know by now that sits on the bottom. I've also got that running on the helicopter system. I've got the bead set about 8 to 10 inches back, and that's on a heli safe. The 3rd rod's going to be exactly the same, but instead of the yellow bait, I'm going to put one of the, basically a match the hatch. I'm going to put one of the freshwater shrimp pop-ups on there, just for something a bit different in case they're spooking off the bright colours. Let's get them out. Guys, welcome back. It's Sunday morning. Nothing to report from last night. Didn't manage to get a bite. From about 9:30 last night until 5:30 this morning, it's absolutely threw it down. And then I've had about an hour respite, and then, as you can probably guess, it's absolutely thrown it down again. It was looking good last night. I got the 3 baits out spot on, got some spoms over the top. I was pretty happy with myself, happy how it was going in general. There was a few fish showing, a couple of fish showed on the spot, and there was quite a few fish showing in this half of the lake, which I didn't have on Friday night, so the confidence was high. And then, like I said, 9:30 the rain came in, and it just literally poured down with rain all night. Don't know if that's put the fish off or whether I've just got things wrong. Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time I've blanked on a 36-hour session. Usually going off stalking saves me. Well, like I said, this is a scene from inside the bivvy. You can see the mud. It's actually stopped raining now, so the river coming through the bivvy is not quite as bad as it was. But it's certainly not dry by any means. There's a view out the bivvy. Nice grey, overcast, breezy, but absolutely no fish showing. Well guys, there you go, second one of the session. I'm sure you agree, quite a small one for A1 pit standards. It's the first one I've had from the baited spot that's 55 yards out. The other one that I had yesterday came a lot closer in over that rake spot. Look at him, right feisty little bugger. Fins up, ready to get back in the water and do some action. Didn't get this one till about 9 o'clock this morning. Thought run time had passed. Well guys, it's just after Sunday dinner. It's all started to come together now. Fish number 3, lovely dark mirror. Making a change from the commons I had yesterday and today. Caught again on that raked spot, 3 rod lengths out. I put some bait on it last night, left it, didn't bother putting a rig on it. Just primed it ready for this morning, because they don't seem to be out in the middle of the lake during the day. They're coming in to what I suppose you'd call the relative margins. Like we spoke earlier, into that weed. There's more oxygen. That's stating the obvious, that's where the food is. So just drop one of them bright yellow baits out there again. Back on that German rig, on the helicopter rig. Doing its job, dump the lead. Going to get it back, get the bait back on the spot, and see if we can catch another one. Okay guys, just before I get the rig back in, just a quick look at what we actually caught it on before I cast it out. I think I mentioned it yesterday. It's called the German rig. It's basically a stiff rig, or a variation of. And I don't know if you can see there, the hook on the end has got a swivel with a quick link attachment, I think you call it. It's very similar to how you set a Ronnie rig up, except a Ronnie rig has that ring as well as the swivel, whereas this has just got the barrel swivel. I believe the idea is just like a stiff rig used to do. It keeps the bait away from the lead. Once they get it in the mouth, it's hard to deal with, and having that swivel there just helps the hook and bait swivel around and take hold in the bottom of the fish's mouth. As I showed you last night, all I'm fishing with is a barrel pop-up, cut down, so it literally sits flat on the bottom like that, with the bait wafting over the top. Let's get it back in and see if we can get you number 4. As you could probably tell, The weather is absolutely appalling. But there you go. Fish number 4. Maybe small, but look how black it is. It's absolutely chucking it down. I've had to made a makeshift tent to put the camera under. Basically 4 poles and my second coat. The weather may be appalling, but the fish keep coming. It's come off that same spot that I've had the other 2 from this morning. That close in spot, 3 rod lengths out, that I raked yesterday. You know the deal by now. Exactly the same rig. That German rig with a little yellow cut down pop up, just made it into a wafter basically. A couple of handfuls of maize over the top, and 10 or so crushed boilies in the area. Getting one about every 2 hours. Still got about 3 or 4 hours left if I want it, so I'm wet now. I may as well carry on getting wet. Well guys, we finally got a bit of break in the weather. It's been absolutely appalling this afternoon. Chucking it down with rain, blowing an absolute gale. I just wanted to show you the weed that I've been fishing in, what I've been talking about, what I've actually been raking out, so you can see what kind of stuff you're going to be fishing in. I don't know, I think maybe this is called milfoil. I don't think it's full Canadian pondweed. Don't get me wrong, there is Canadian out there as well, which I believe is this stuff. I might be wrong, I'm not exactly an expert, but as you can see there's absolutely tons of the stuff. This stuff tends to grow straight up, as you'd imagine. A lot of this stuff that I've raked in last couple of days has been sort of 4 or 5 foot deep. This is what I'm using to rake it in. You actually tie it on that end. There's a little ring swivel, and then it's an anchor. I'm casting this out with a spon rod. You probably saw me doing that yesterday. It's just wide enough to drag a nice hole out. It doesn't get clogged up too much, and it quite easily is handleable on a spod rod and 40-pound braid. One thing I have taken from this short session, and something I need to improve on, is the need to be prepared on a weedy lake for evening runs. Both nights, Friday night and Saturday night, the fish have showed as we're going into dusk and dark. Now Friday night I couldn't do a lot about that because getting here at 6 o'clock literally gave me an hour to find spots, get set up, get leads and bait out. But last night, as I normally do, I left it too late, so going into dusk I'm crushing 3-ounce leads out over fish's heads. Obviously something I need to improve on. The fish were blatantly showing last night, dusk going into dark. Exactly the same as Friday night, and Sunday morning, this morning, there's absolutely nothing showing again. That definitely fits in with the theory that on weedy lakes the fish are more active during the day going into the evening, less active during the night going into the morning session. The theory is that the weed is releasing oxygen all day long, so the fish are going to be more active in the afternoon and evening, and then through the night the weed's sucking the oxygen back in and releasing CO2. That definitely seems to be the case, and that's bear fruit on this session. So that's something I'm going to take into the next session that I do. Be a little bit more prepared in the afternoon and be ready for that evening bite time. Well guys, after what's been a difficult day, a difficult weekend, and certainly a difficult afternoon, the wind's completely switched round now. It's hacking into my bank. Been raining for the good 2.5 hours. Finally got another one. There you go, carp number 5, a beautiful common. A Good 16, 17 pound this one. I'm not going to weigh it. I don't want to mess it about this late stage in the day. Got some beautiful fish here out of pit 3 this afternoon. Hope if nothing else you've taken something out of my video. Maybe be able to fine-tune your rigs in the weed or presentations, and if nothing else, when you believe you're doing the right thing and things are just not going your way, just keep at it. Eventually the fish will come around, your luck will turn. Just keep faith in that bait, keep it going in, and don't be afraid of fishing in and around the weed. Now get this one back and head home. Well, I hope you like this video. I'll catch you out on the bank sometime soon, trying to catch some more of these beautiful A1 carp. Bye.